Another market update for the Phoenix metro area, and this is through the end of May for 2025. So I wanted to compare a few different things. And if you're like me, I don't know, I read a lot of news and like to see what's happening, particularly because I want to see what's in the consumer's mind. And for the last 2 months, I would say that the headlines regarding real estate have really been negative. They've focused a lot on tariffs and the impact on the real estate community and sales and what that means. They've also focused on affordability. They've focused on higher rate of contract cancellation. So it's really been negative. And I always try to understand why. Is there a motive? Is there a message? Or are they just presenting the facts? Because I like to present my clients at least with facts and data so that they can make data-driven decisions instead of emotional ones. I tend to find that if you're following the news and those headlines, they're trying to pull at your emotions, right? To get you to either read that article, subscribe to their information, whatever it is. So right now I'm looking at the data within our MLS, and this number that you see on the screen are actives and coming soons. And if you remember, I did an update. It was probably the third week of April where, since the beginning of the year, we've seen inventory increasing and at a very quick rate. And through the month of April, we had roughly a little more than 27,000 homes listed for sale at that time. I want to say it was like 27,500, somewhere around there. That's kind of where we capped out. And today we're sitting at 26,512. Now this is June 3rd of 2025, so a little bit more than a month later. So we've actually seen the inventory decrease just a little bit. And why would that be? Is it because people just gave up and said, I'm not going to sell? Well, maybe some of them have. Maybe their plans have changed. But I also believe that because of the summertime, you will typically and traditionally see less listings come to the market within Arizona or the Phoenix metro area because of the heat, the time of year. Just like in the Northeast, you tend to see those slowdowns with listing activity in like December, January. The seasons are a little bit different here within the Phoenix metro. So there's less inventory on the market right now. And what I wanted to take a look at was how much demand, because that's what's really been paid attention to within the media. It's kind of like, no one's buying a home, everybody's waiting, everybody's sitting on the sidelines, it's just unaffordable. And while a lot of that does have some truth to it, how does it translate into the numbers and the data? So you won't see this on the screen. I'm just kind of pulling this information off of what I had already gathered from the MLS. But when I look at the year-to-date numbers within our MLS, and this is from January 1st through May 31st, for the year 2023, we had a total of 32,461 closings. In 2024, we had 31,616 closings, so it was a little bit less, than the year prior, which I think we were all pretty much aware of. We knew that things were slowing down, demand was suffering. And then this year, we had a total of 31,935 closings, which is a little bit more than 300 more closings. Now, is that a huge increase? No. It's 300, relative to like more than 31,000. So it's literally like kind of like a drop in the bucket. But it does show you that, there is activity out there still, and there was more than there was at the same time last year. That's year to date. Now, if I compare the MLS data, and this is now just the month of May, because let's face it, things have changed a little bit. And if you look at, this is again, closing data. So if you're looking at closed sales here in Phoenix, I'd say we're about 30 to 45 days behind the curve. Which really puts us into the month of April, because that's when we would have seen any impact of tariffs and what that did to interest rates, all that kind of stuff, and the economic woes that people might have been worried about. So when I look at the May data, this is actually does tell a little bit more of a story. And it's the reverse. So for 2023 in May, we had 8,110 closings. In 2024, we had 7,602 closings, so less again, which makes sense. And then for 2025, instead of seeing an increase, we actually saw a decrease. So we had 7,097 closings, which is about 500 transactions less just for the month of May compared to the same time last year. Now, would I say it's a huge shift as they're reporting or making it seem as though it's happening within the news? No, but there's definitely some people out there who are saying, you know what, this isn't really the best time to buy right now. Or maybe they're just saying, heck, I just can't afford to buy right now. We haven't seen any real reprieve in terms of values and pricing. We've seen some adjustments. And I found this to be interesting too. It's not specific to any one area. When I look at the entirety of the MLS, the median sales price for May of last year was 450,000, where the median sales price for this May was 454,000. And again, that's the entire MLS. If I look at Phoenix though, and this I found fascinating, was that the median sales price for 2024 in May was 450,000, but this past May it was 431,500. So there's a significant difference in the median sales price this May versus last May in the city of Phoenix, which is a very large area, by the way. That represents roughly 1,300 transactions, within the month of May year over year. And we did see a decline in transactions there as well. So 1,369 in 2024 versus 1,282 in 2025. Now, let's compare that though to Scottsdale. In Scottsdale, it's a little bit different. Our median sales price in 24 was 845,450, and then in May of 25 was 900,000. So we actually saw an increase in Scottsdale for the median sales price, and that's actually been consistent year over year since 23, 24, 25. And the number of transactions in 24 was 648 properties that closed in Scottsdale versus 581 that closed in 2025. So there's a significant decline in transaction activity. There, it actually does add up to something and make a little bit more of a difference. But again, it probably has more to do with the affordability than it does of the economic woes and how people think and how they respond to the media. My point of all of this is that real estate is very local, and if you're thinking about selling, things might be improving just a little bit for you, but you should know that it's not, you're not in this really horrible situation where you have to give the house away, as people would tend to say. But you do want to make sure that it's priced competitively within the market because buyers do still have a lot of options, that it looks its best, make sure that you prepare that home for sale or price it accordingly, really is what it comes down to. Because at the end of the day, with more and more options and buyers kind of, feeling a little bit more hesitant maybe about making that big purchase or having the ability to make that big purchase, they want their dollar to go as far as it possibly can and get as much as they can for that, right? So it's really important that you create with your agent, and you should be reviewing this with them. How do I create a perception of value or real value in this property so that when I do come to the market, I have a really good experience and maybe I have multiple offers. Now I have ways of doing that, and of course I can share those with you, but it is very much property specific, area specific, because the data does change a little bit as we've noted. If you have any questions about the real estate market here in Phoenix or anywhere else in the country, hey, I'd be happy to help. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next update.